The day started like any other in Washington, D.C., with the usual buzz of cars, people rushing to work, and the faint hum of distant airplanes. But then the sky changed. A massive shadow loomed overhead, blocking out the sun. People froze in their tracks, staring upward as a sleek, metallic spacecraft descended gracefully into the heart of the city. It hovered silently above the National Mall, its surface shimmering like liquid silver. No one knew what to expect. Among the crowd gathered near the Lincoln Memorial was Alex Carter, a young scientist from NASA. His hands trembled slightly as he clutched his tablet, trying to record every detail. Beside him stood Rachel Monroe, a calm and composed diplomat who had been called in to handle whatever happened next. She wore a sharp suit and carried a notepad, though her pen hovered uncertainly over the blank page. Both were part of a hastily assembled team tasked with making first contact with whoever, or whatever, was inside the ship. After several tense minutes, a section of the craft slid open, revealing a ramp that extended down to the ground. Out stepped a tall, slender figure with smooth, pale skin and large, almond-shaped eyes. Its movements were fluid, almost too perfect, as if it had rehearsed this moment countless times. The being introduced itself as Krylf, an ambassador from a species called the Vortha. Its voice was soft, but carried a strange resonance, like music played on an unfamiliar instrument. "Earthlings," Krylf began, addressing the crowd through some kind of translation device. "We have observed your planet for many cycles. You are intriguing." The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Intriguing wasn't exactly the compliment humans might have hoped for, but it was better than outright hostility. Alex leaned closer to Rachel, whispering, "What do you think they mean by intriguing?" Rachel didn't answer immediately. Her focus was entirely on Krylf, whose expression, if it could even be called that, remained unreadable. The alien continued, "Your species is fragile. Your bodies cannot withstand extreme conditions. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. And yet," Krylf paused, tilting its head slightly, "and yet you persist." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some people bristled at the insults, while others felt uneasy, unsure whether to take offense or feel flattered. Alex noticed something odd about Krylf's tone. It wasn't just condescending. It seemed tinged with curiosity, maybe even concern. "You live on a chaotic world," Krylf went on. "Storms ravage your lands. Earthquakes tear apart your cities. Disease spreads among you. War consumes your resources. Yet still, you cling to life. Why?" Rachel finally spoke up, stepping forward cautiously. "We endure because we adapt," she said firmly. "Challenges make us stronger. They push us to innovate, to find solutions. That's what survival means to us." Krylf tilted its head again, studying her intently. For a moment, Alex thought he saw something flicker across the alien's face, a flash of doubt, perhaps, or even admiration. But then Krylf straightened and addressed the group once more. "We will learn more about you," it said simply. "Perhaps there is value in your persistence." As the spacecraft lifted back into the sky, leaving behind stunned silence, Alex turned to Rachel. "Do you think they're really interested in us, or are they just mocking us?" Rachel frowned, her gaze fixed on the spot where the ship had disappeared. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "But one thing is certain, they underestimated us. And that might be their biggest mistake." For now, humanity waited, unsure of what would come next. But deep down, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only the beginning. A few days after the Vortha's arrival, humanity received an unexpected invitation. Krylf announced that a select group of humans would be allowed to visit their home planet, Vorthar Prime, for what they called a cultural exchange. The idea was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a chance to prove humanity's worth, while others worried it might be a trap. Despite the risks, Alex Carter and Rachel Monroe were chosen to go, along with two others. Daniel Hayes, a no-nonsense military officer, and Emily Wright, a biologist known for her sharp mind and calm demeanor. The team gathered at the same spot where the Vortha ship had landed before. This time, the craft descended faster, as if eager to leave Earth behind. As they approached the ramp leading into the ship, Alex couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and unease. The interior of the spacecraft was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls glowed faintly, and the air smelled clean, almost too pure. There were no visible controls or buttons. Everything seemed to respond to thought or touch. Krylth greeted them warmly, though its tone still carried a hint of superiority. "Welcome aboard," it said. "Prepare yourselves. You will soon see what true civilization looks like." Alex exchanged a glance with Rachel, who gave him a small nod. They both knew they needed to stay alert. As the ship lifted off, the humans felt a strange sensation, not the jolt of acceleration they were used to, but a smooth, effortless glide. Through the windows, Earth shrank rapidly into a blue and green marble. Emily pressed her face against the glass, marveling at the view. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Daniel, however, kept his arms crossed, his eyes scanning every corner of the ship. He didn't trust the Vortha, and he wasn't afraid to show it. During the journey, Krylth explained more about Vorthar Prime. "Our world is perfect," it said proudly. "No storms disrupt our skies. No earthquakes threaten our cities. Disease has been eradicated. Conflict is unheard of. We have achieved harmony." Alex frowned. "Sounds ideal," he said cautiously. "But isn't perfection kind of boring? Don't you ever get curious about chaos? About unpredictability?" Krylth hesitated, its large eyes narrowing slightly. "Chaos is dangerous," it replied. "It leads to destruction. Why would we seek such a thing when we have order?" Rachel stepped in, trying to steer the conversation away from potential conflict. "Tell us more about your society," she suggested. "How do you manage to keep everything so stable?" Krylth gestured toward a holographic display that appeared in midair. Images of sprawling cities filled with gleaming towers and lush gardens flickered before them. "Every aspect of life is controlled," it explained. "Resources are distributed evenly. Emotions are regulated to prevent discord. Even the environment has been engineered to suit our needs." Emily leaned forward, intrigued. "Engineered? You mean you've altered your planet's ecosystem?" "Yes," Krylth said matter-of-factly. "We eliminated species that were inefficient or harmful. Only the strongest, most useful organisms remain." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "So you wiped out anything that didn't fit your vision of perfection." "Sounds harsh." Krylth tilted its head, studying him. "Harsh? No. Necessary. Survival requires sacrifice." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. Something about the Vortha's philosophy felt off. Alex tried to piece together his thoughts. "You say you value efficiency and control," he began slowly. "But doesn't that make you fragile? What happens if something unexpected comes along? Something you can't predict?" Krylth's expression didn't change, but Alex thought he detected a flicker of uncertainty. Before the alien could respond, the ship shuddered slightly, signaling their arrival. The humans turned their attention to the viewport, where Vorthar Prime loomed ahead, a dazzling jewel of a planet, shimmering with promise. As they prepared to disembark, Rachel whispered to Alex, "Keep your eyes open. I don't think this place is as perfect as they want us to believe." Alex nodded silently. Whatever awaited them on Vorthar Prime, one thing was certain. They weren't just visitors. They were observers, ready to uncover the truth behind the Vortha's facade of perfection. As the Vortha ship descended onto Vorthar Prime, the humans pressed their faces against the windows, taking in the breathtaking view below. The planet was a vision of perfection. Rolling green hills dotted with vibrant flowers, crystal-clear rivers winding through the landscape, and cities that sparkled like jewels under the twin suns. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and the air seemed to hum with a sense of calm. It was everything Earth wasn't, orderly, pristine, and utterly serene. Once they landed, Cryolf led them out of the ship and into the heart of one of the gleaming cities. The streets were spotless, with no signs of litter or wear. Buildings stretched high into the sky, their surfaces smooth and polished, reflecting light in dazzling patterns. People, or rather, Vortha, moved about with purpose but without haste. Their movements were synchronized, almost mechanical, as if every action had been carefully choreographed. "This is our capital," Cryolf said proudly. "Here, we have achieved what your species can only dream of." Alex glanced around, trying to absorb everything. At first glance, it was paradise, but something felt off. He couldn't put his finger on it, but the city lacked character. There were no street performers, no bustling markets, no laughter spilling out of cafes. It was beautiful, yes, but also strangely lifeless. Emily wandered over to a patch of flowers growing near the edge of the street. She knelt down to examine them more closely, her brow furrowing as she ran her fingers over the petals. "These plants," she muttered, "they're all identical, every single one of them." Rachel stepped closer, crouching beside her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look at them," Emily replied. "Not a single variation. Same height, same color, same number of petals. It's unnatural." Daniel crossed his arms, scanning the area. "You think they engineered these two, like Cryolf said they did with their ecosystem?" "It's possible," Emily said, standing up. "But if they've done this with every living thing here, then this place isn't natural at all. It's a construct, a facade." Cryolf approached, its expression unreadable. "Is something wrong?" it asked smoothly. "Not wrong," Rachel said quickly, stepping forward. "Just fascinating. Your world is so uniform. Everything seems designed for harmony." Cryolf nodded approvingly. "Harmony is the foundation of our society. Without it, there would be chaos." Alex frowned. "But doesn't that get boring? Don't you ever want surprises? Things that challenge you?" Cryolf tilted its head, studying him. "Challenges lead to inefficiency. Surprises disrupt balance. Why would we seek such things?" The humans exchanged uneasy glances. They couldn't argue with logic. They just didn't agree with it. As they continued their tour, Daniel noticed something else odd. The Vortha guards stationed throughout the city never moved from their posts. Not once did they shift their weight, scratch an itch, or even blink. It was as though they weren't alive at all. "Hey," Daniel whispered to Alex as they walked. "Have you noticed how stiff those guards are? They don't act like living beings." Alex nodded slowly. "Yeah, I thought it was just me." Later that evening, back in the quarters assigned to them, the team gathered to discuss what they'd seen. Emily pulled out samples she'd secretly collected during the day, bits of plant matter, soil, even a strand of hair from one of the Vortha. She examined them under a portable microscope, her expression growing more troubled by the minute. "This stuff," she said finally, "it's not natural. The DNA sequences are too clean, too perfect, like they've been edited over and over again. And the soil, it's full of synthetic compounds. This whole planet has been manufactured." Rachel leaned back, rubbing her temples. "So their paradise isn't real. It's a controlled environment, a bubble. And bubbles can burst," Alex added quietly. For the first time since arriving, the humans realized the truth. The Vortha's so-called perfection came at a cost. Underneath the shiny surface lay a fragile system, one that might not survive the unpredictability of the universe. And as much as the Vortha mocked humanity for living on a chaotic world, it was that very chaos that made humans strong. The question now was whether the Vortha would see it, or if they'd cling to their illusion of control until it was too late. The next morning, Alex woke up with a plan forming in his mind. He gathered the team in their quarters before heading out for the day. "We need to show them what humanity is really about," he said, pacing back and forth. "They think we're weak because of our chaos, but that chaos makes us adaptable. We survive because we face challenges head-on." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. You're right. But how do we prove that to them? They're so convinced their way is better. Emily spoke up, holding up one of her sample vials. What if we challenge them? Not directly, just something subtle. Let's make them see the value in unpredictability. Daniel smirked. I like it. Hit them where it hurts. Their precious perfection. After some discussion, they decided to propose a series of simulated survival scenarios based on real-world disasters from Earth's history. When they presented the idea to Krylf, the alien ambassador seemed amused at first. You wish to test us? It asked, its tone laced with skepticism. Very well. We accept your challenge. The Vortha set up the simulations in a large dome-like structure designed to mimic different environments. The humans watched as the Vortha participants entered the first scenario, a volcanic eruption. At first, the aliens handled things smoothly, using their advanced technology to analyze the situation and respond efficiently. But when unexpected variables were introduced, a sudden change in wind direction, ash clouds blocking sensors, their confidence began to falter. Alex couldn't help but smile as he observed their growing frustration. See, even the best plans fall apart when you don't account for chaos. In contrast, the humans excelled. Rachel led her group through a pandemic simulation, drawing on lessons learned from Earth's past outbreaks. She organized quarantine zones, distributed resources, and even managed to keep morale high among the participants. Emily tackled a scenario involving a massive earthquake, demonstrating quick thinking by stabilizing structures and finding safe routes for evacuation. Daniel took charge during a resource shortage exercise, showing how teamwork and improvisation could overcome scarcity. Krylf watched silently, its expression unreadable. After each simulation, the Vortha participants grew quieter, their usual composure slipping. Finally, during a hurricane scenario, one of the Vortha leaders snapped. This is pointless, it exclaimed, throwing down a piece of equipment. How can anyone function in such disorder? Alex stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Because disorder is part of life. On Earth, we don't run from challenges, we adapt to them. That's why we've survived everything this universe has thrown at us. Krylf turned to look at him, its eyes narrowing slightly. For the first time, there was a flicker of doubt in its gaze. Your species thrives on adversity. Yes, Rachel said, stepping beside Alex. It's not just about surviving. It's about learning, growing, and becoming stronger. Your world may be perfect, but it's also fragile. One crack in your system could bring it all down. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The Vortha exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence visibly shaken. Alex felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to understand. That evening, as the humans returned to their quarters, Emily voiced what everyone was thinking. Do you think they get it now? That perfection isn't the answer. I think they're beginning to. Alex replied. But we're not done yet. Tomorrow, we push harder. We need to show them that Earth isn't a failure. It's a crucible, and it's made us tougher than they'll ever be. The others nodded in agreement. Despite the tension, they felt a newfound sense of purpose. If they could make the Vorthas see the value in humanity's resilience, then this mission would be worth every risk. Little did they know, the Vortha were already reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humans and about themselves. The next day, Krylf called the humans to a large meeting chamber. The atmosphere was tense, and the Vortha ambassador's usual calm demeanor seemed strained. Your simulations have given us much to consider, it began, its voice quieter than usual. But we still question whether your adaptability is truly superior to our way of life. Alex stepped forward, sensing an opportunity. If you really want to understand humanity, you need to experience Earth for yourselves, he said confidently. See how we live. Face the challenges we face every day. Then you'll see why chaos isn't our weakness, it's our strength. Krylf hesitated, glancing at the other Vortha leaders gathered in the room. For a moment, Alex thought they would refuse, but then Krylth nodded slowly. Very well. A delegation will accompany you back to Earth. We will witness this resilience firsthand. The humans exchanged surprised but determined looks. They had pushed the Vortha further than expected, and now it was time to show them what Earth was really like. When they returned to Earth, the Vortha delegation was visibly unprepared for the planet's raw energy. As their ship descended over a bustling city, the aliens stared wide-eyed at the sprawling streets filled with cars, people, and towering buildings. The air smelled different here, rich with the sense of food, rain, and industry. It was messy, loud, and alive in a way Vorthar Prime could never be. "This is where you live?" one of the Vortha asked, its voice tinged with disbelief. "It's not perfect," Rachel admitted, smiling slightly. "But it works, and it's ours." The first stop was a coastal town recovering from a recent hurricane. The humans showed the Vortha how communities came together to rebuild homes, share resources, and support each other. Despite the destruction, there was laughter and hope in the air. One elderly man shook hands with a Vortha observer, saying, "We've been through worse. We always bounce back." Next, they visited a research facility studying diseases. Emily explained how humanity had faced countless pandemics throughout history, yet each time, scientists found ways to fight back. "We learn from our mistakes," she told the Vortha. "Every failure teaches us something new." In the desert, Daniel led the group to a water purification plant powered by solar panels. He pointed out how humans adapted to harsh environments, finding creative solutions to survive. "You wouldn't last a week out here without help," he said bluntly. "But we've lived in places like this for centuries." As the days went on, the Vortha grew increasingly uneasy. They struggled with the heat, the noise, and the unpredictability of Earth's weather. But more than that, they were overwhelmed by the sheer diversity of life. Plants, animals, cultures, ideas, all thriving despite constant change. One night, under a sky filled with stars, Alex approached Krylth. "Do you see now?" he asked gently. "Earth isn't perfect, but it's strong because it's alive. It changes, grows, and evolves. That's what makes it special." Krylth looked up at the stars, its expression thoughtful. "Perhaps we have misunderstood your world," it admitted softly. "And perhaps we have misunderstood ourselves." By the end of their visit, the Vortha delegation was no longer mocking or condescending. Instead, they watched humanity with a mix of awe and respect. What they once saw as flaws, they now recognized as strengths. Earth might have been chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel, but it was also vibrant, resilient, and full of potential. For the first time, the Vortha began to wonder if perfection wasn't the ultimate goal after all. Maybe, just maybe, survival wasn't about control. It was about endurance, about facing the storm and finding a way to dance in the rain. When the Vortha delegation returned to their ship, they were quiet. The humans could tell something had shifted in their perspective. Krylth stood at the center of the group, its large eyes reflecting a mix of confusion and contemplation. For the first time since meeting them, Alex noticed that the alien ambassador seemed unsure of itself. Back on Vorthar Prime, the humans were invited to another meeting with the Vortha leaders. This time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of the usual arrogance or condescension, there was a sense of unease among the aliens. Krylth addressed the humans directly. "Your world, it is unlike anything we have ever encountered," it said slowly. "We believe perfection was the key to survival, but now we see that such an idea may be flawed." Rachel nodded, her tone calm but firm. "Perfection isn't always strength. Sometimes it's a weakness. If everything stays the same, you never grow. You never learn how to handle surprises or disasters." Emily added, holding up one of her sample vials. "Look at your planet. Everything here is controlled, engineered, predictable. But what happens when something unexpected comes along? Something you can't prepare for. Krelth hesitated before responding. We have safeguards in place, systems to maintain order. But systems fail, Daniel cut in sharply. You saw it yourself during our simulations. When things don't go as planned, you panic. Humans? We adapt. That's why we've survived while other species haven't. The room fell silent as the Vortha absorbed his words. Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. Earth isn't perfect, but that's what makes it special. It forces us to be strong, creative, and resilient. Living there has taught us to face challenges head-on, not run from them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Krelth turned to the other Vortha leaders, exchanging quiet glances. Finally, it faced the humans again. Perhaps we underestimated you, it admitted. Your chaos, your unpredictability. They are not weaknesses. They are tools. Tools that make you stronger than we realized. Rachel smiled faintly. It's not just about being strong. It's about embracing change, about finding beauty in imperfection. The Vortha leaders conferred briefly before Krelth continued. We wish to establish a partnership with your species, share knowledge, resources, and ideas. Together, perhaps we can find a balance between order and chaos. Alex felt a surge of relief and pride. The mission had worked. Humanity hadn't just proven its worth. It had earned the respect of a species that once mocked them. We'd be honored to work with you, he replied. But remember, Earth isn't like Vorthar Prime. Things won't always go smoothly. There will be disagreements, mistakes, even failures. And that's okay. Krelth tilted its head slightly, as if considering this new concept. Failure, it is part of growth. Yes, Rachel said firmly. It's how we learn, how we improve. Without failure, there's no progress. As the meeting concluded, the humans left the chamber feeling hopeful. They had come to Vorthar Prime as representatives of a supposedly inferior species, yet they had managed to change the Vortha's entire perspective on life. The aliens no longer saw humanity as fragile or primitive. They saw them as survivors. That evening, as the team gathered in their quarters, Emily broke the silence. Do you think they'll really change? Or will they go back to their old ways once we're gone? I don't know, Alex admitted. But I think they've started to question themselves. That's a step in the right direction. Daniel leaned back in his chair, smirking. Whatever happens, one thing's for sure. The Vortha won't underestimate us again. Rachel looked out the window at the shimmering city below. Maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe we've opened their eyes to something bigger than perfection. Something real. For the first time since arriving, the humans felt a sense of accomplishment, not because they had won, but because they had shared a piece of who they were. And in doing so, they had changed the way an entire species viewed the universe. The partnership between humanity and the Vortha began slowly but steadily. At first, there were challenges. The two species had vastly different ways of thinking, and misunderstandings often arose. The Vortha struggled to grasp the concept of compromise, while the humans found the aliens' rigid adherence to order frustrating. But over time, they learned to bridge the gap. Alex, Rachel, Emily, and Daniel remained at the forefront of the collaboration. They worked closely with Krelth and other Vortha leaders to share knowledge and ideas. Alex introduced them to Earth's history of innovation, showing how humanity had turned failures into breakthroughs. Rachel explained the importance of diplomacy and finding common ground, even in the face of conflict. Emily shared her research on biodiversity, emphasizing the value of imperfection in ecosystems. And Daniel demonstrated the power of teamwork, teaching the Vortha how cooperation could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. One day, Krelth approached the team with a surprising proposal. We wish to implement some of your methods on Vorthar Prime, it said. But we need your guidance. Rachel raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? We want to introduce controlled chaos, Krelth explained hesitantly. Small changes to our environment and society to test adaptability. We believe it may strengthen us. Emily's eyes lit up. That's incredible. If you're willing to embrace change, even in small ways, it could make a huge difference. Under the human supervision, the Vortha began experimenting. They allowed certain areas of their cities to develop naturally without strict control. They introduced minor fluctuations in weather patterns to simulate unpredictability, and for the first time, they encouraged individual creativity among their people, allowing art, music, and personal expression to flourish. At first, the results were mixed. Some Vortha embraced the changes eagerly, discovering talents and passions they never knew they had. Others resisted, clinging to the old ways. But as time went on, the benefits became clear. The Vortha who adapted to the new conditions showed increased problem-solving skills and emotional resilience. Their society, once rigid and fragile, began to grow more dynamic and robust. Meanwhile, the humans gained valuable insights from the Vortha as well. Advanced technology helped improve life on Earth, from cleaner energy sources to medical breakthroughs. Together, the two species tackled shared challenges, such as asteroid deflection and interstellar exploration. It was a true partnership, one built on mutual respect and understanding. During one of their final meetings, Cryolth addressed the team with a tone of genuine gratitude. "You have shown us that perfection is not the ultimate goal," it said. "Strength lies in balance, in embracing both order and chaos. Your world may be harsh, but it has shaped you into something remarkable." Alex smiled, feeling the deep sense of pride. "And your willingness to change has made you stronger too. That's what growth is all about." As the humans prepared to return to Earth, they reflected on everything they had accomplished. What started as a tense and uncertain mission had blossomed into a relationship that neither side could have imagined. The Vortha no longer saw Earth as a chaotic failure. Instead, they viewed it as a crucible that forged one of the most adaptable species in the galaxy. On the journey home, Rachel looked out at the stars, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think this will last?" she asked softly. "Or will they eventually go back to their old ways?" "I don't know," Alex admitted, "but I think we've planted a seed of change. Even if it takes time, I believe they'll keep growing." Emily nodded, smiling faintly. "Maybe that's all we can hope for. Progress isn't perfect. It's messy, just like us." Daniel chuckled, leaning back in his seat. "Well, if they ever forget what we taught them, we can always send another delegation. Maybe next time, we'll bring pizza." The others laughed, the sound echoing through the ship. Despite the challenges ahead, they felt hopeful. Humanity had faced countless trials throughout its history, yet it had always endured. Now, thanks to their efforts, the Vortha had begun to see the beauty in imperfection and the strength in resilience. As Earth came into view, glowing blue and green against the vastness of space, Alex felt a surge of optimism. The universe was full of unknowns, but one thing was certain: humanity's ability to adapt would continue to inspire, not just themselves, but others across the stars. Months passed after the humans returned to Earth. The partnership with the Vortha continued to grow, though from a distance. Messages were exchanged regularly, and joint projects flourished. Humanity learned new technologies from the Vortha, while the aliens adopted aspects of human creativity and adaptability into their own society. It wasn't always easy. There were disagreements and setbacks, but both sides remained committed to the alliance. One evening, Alex sat in his small apartment, staring out at the city skyline. The lights twinkled like stars, and for a moment, he felt overwhelmed by how far they'd come. What started as an encounter filled with mockery and distrust had turned into something extraordinary. He picked up his tablet, scrolling through updates from Vorthar Prime. The reports showed promising changes: more Vortha engaging in creative pursuits, experiments with controlled chaos yielding positive results, and even signs of emotional expression among their people. Rachel called him later that night, her voice brimming with excitement. "Did you see the latest transmission?" she asked. "They've started planting wildflowers in their cities. Actual wildflowers, not the engineered ones. They're letting nature take its course. Alex grinned. That's amazing. Who would have thought they'd embrace imperfection so quickly? It's not just about the flowers, Rachel said thoughtfully. It's a symbol of how much they change. They're learning to let go of control and trust the process. Meanwhile, Emily was busy analyzing data sent by the Vortha about their environmental experiments. She noticed subtle shifts in their ecosystems, signs of natural evolution taking place. Their planet is becoming alive, she told Daniel during a team meeting. Not just engineered perfection, but real life. Messy, unpredictable, beautiful life. Daniel nodded, crossing his arms. Guess we rubbed off on them more than we thought. The team decided to send a message back to Krylv, thanking the Vortha for their efforts and offering further assistance if needed. To their surprise, the response came almost immediately. Krylv's tone was warm and reflective. Your influence has changed us in ways we could not have anticipated, it wrote. We once laughed at your world, seeing only chaos. Now we admire it. And you, for the strength it has given us. The words resonated deeply with the team. For years, humanity had dreamed of making contact with alien species, hoping to prove its worth in the cosmos. But now, they realized that value didn't come from being perfect. It came from being resilient, from finding strength in adversity and beauty in imperfection. A few weeks later, the Vortha sent another message, this time inviting humanity to celebrate their newfound partnership. A delegation would travel to Earth, bringing gifts and goodwill. When they arrived, the sight of their ship descending over a bustling city drew crowds of curious onlookers. This time, there was no fear or tension, only excitement and curiosity. The celebration took place in Central Park, where humans and Vortha mingled freely. Children played near the towering visitors, laughing as they touched their shimmering skin. Artists painted murals depicting scenes of cooperation between the two species. Musicians performed songs inspired by the union, blending Earth's melodies with strange, otherworldly harmonies. As Alex stood watching the festivities, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Rachel, smiling warmly. We did it, she said simply. We showed them what it means to be human. And they showed us what it means to change, Alex replied, nodding toward the Vortha, who were attempting to dance awkwardly to the music. Maybe that's the real lesson here, that none of us are set in stone. We can all grow, no matter who or what we are. In the months and years that followed, the bond between humanity and the Vortha only grew stronger. Together, they faced challenges neither could have tackled alone, proving that differences weren't barriers, they were opportunities. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but one truth stood clear. Survival wasn't about perfection. It was about connection, resilience, and the courage to embrace the storms of life. As Alex looked up at the stars one final time, he whispered softly to himself, "Thank you, Earth, for teaching us how to endure." And somewhere, light years away, Krylv might have been thinking the same thing.